Hey there everybody, Robert Taylor with Wonderscape Creations, continuing on with our world building tutorials series. Uh, when, when we left off, we were doing the coloration, and in this episode we're going to work on the UVs. That way we can better remove this tiling, because as you can see we still have tiling right here, despite the fact that we also have this noise. But that's also because the noise is tiling at the exact same size as the other texture. So we will get to that today. But before we get started, I want to thank and give a shout out to my Patreon supporters. If you would like to join the community, please click on the link down below. I do apologize that this episode will be quite long. There is a lot to do to properly set up the UV node that we will be utilizing, because it is also utilized with the with the triplanar, which triplanar we will go over later, but essentially makes it to where, as you can see, there's some stretching here. It removes stretching. It's quite expensive, but only needed for the cliffs, so that's a good thing. So let's go ahead and get started with the UVs so that we can properly take care of this. So the first thing we're going to want to do is, in the same area with the base functions folder with the albedo noise, we're going to right click and material function mf underscore transform UVs underscore WBT. Let's go ahead and open this up. We got lots to do. First thing we're going to want to do is copy the output result and paste it twice, because there's going to be 3 exit outputs. This first one we will name GB. The next one we will name RB, and the last one RG. So we're going to start with the GB before we do the rest of it. And the first thing we're going to want, which we will be using with all of them, is the world position node. And right away, obviously we're going to drag out and make an input, which we will now name absolute world position. We will check mark this, and this way, if somebody is wanting to do some extra math in between this and the rest of the code, they can with ease. Otherwise, it'll always automatically use this, and there's nothing we have to worry about. Next thing we're going to want to do is drag out of the multiply, drag out and put a multiply, and then we want to hold down the number 3 to get a vector 3. Now in this vector 3, we want to put a 1 in the R. Sorry, let me open this up. Yeah, 1 in the R, 1 in the Y, and -1 in the Z. 1, 1, -1, correct. The next thing we want to do is get a subtract. Hold down the 3 again, and we're going to want a 0.5, 0.5, 0.5. Place that in there. So obviously, if we go ahead and drag this in, this is what we have. Drag in the multiply. Now this is what we have. Drag in the subtract. Not much of a change, but that's part of the process. Alright. Now we're going to drag out of here. Because there's so much here, we're going to be introducing something that's been introduced since, I believe it started out with 5. It may have been 4.27 though. We're going to type reroute, and we want the add named reroute node. We're going to name this world position, because this is used quite a bit everywhere. But we don't want a bunch of spaghetti like what we have with the base, which we will fix way down the road. All right. So the next thing that we are going to want is we want several more inputs set up and ready. So we will right click input, minimize this. We want it to be a scalar. We're going to have 4 more of those. So we're going to copy, paste, paste, paste. Wait, 3 more. Sorry, not 4 more. And then might as well get the input 4 right here, but this one is a vector 2. So you want scalar, vector 2, scalar, scalar, scalar. All right. In this top scalar, we want to call it UV scale. Make sure you check mark all these so we don't forget down the road. And for the UV scale, we're going to hold down 1, 4, 1, and place it in there. For this vector 2, we want it to be UV pivot point. For those that want to do pivot points, it's not necessary, but it's there. We then want to hold down a 2. Whoops. Okay. UV pivot point. Let's click out of there. Hold down 2 and click. We want this to be 0.5, 0.5. I'm going to place that right there. And in this one, we will call this one UV rotation. Hold down the 1. We want it to be 0. And then we want this input offset X. Again, we want it to be 0. And then this one to be UV offset Y. Yeah, I don't know why I put UV. It's not needed. Just offset Y. Perfect. So now, because I want these to be all be the same color, I'm going to copy and paste world position. So now it's world position 1, but we're going to rename this one UV scale. Copy paste. UV pivot point. Oops. UV rotation. UV offset X. Then UV offset Y. There we go. So now that we have these, we want to make sure that we have everything set up correctly here. So this one being 0, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. All right. I'm going to comment this out. Put inputs just so that I can easily find them down the road. Now then, first thing we want is right click and type UV rotation. So now this is coming from right here. No spaghetti code. It's a fantastic addition that they made to the materials. We then are going to want to drag out it right here and type cosine. And then I'm going to drag out of here, do reroute. I'm going to name it cosine. And then I need another UV rotation. Now as you can see, copy and paste it keeps it at the same name because it's an output, not an input. We're going to name this one Sign. And again, reroute Sign. Now we're going to want to right click, get world position, the named reroute node. We're going to need 2 of those. We're going to drag out and get mask G. Oh, silly me. Component mask, make it G. Copy paste. We want this next one to be B. There we go. Reroute mask G. Reroute mask B. All right. Clean this up a bit. Next thing is we're going to want our 4 multiplies. So let's get ourselves 4 multiplies. So first get that. Copy, paste, paste, paste. And in this top one, we want the cosine. And then mask G. And in this one right here, we want sine. And mask B. And from here, we want cosine. And we want mask B. And then we want the sine and mask G. So obviously you don't have to go through like this with the whole scenario. However, I am doing it this way for you guys so it's easy to see the connections. Because I've done an episode with this before and a lot of people were struggling with following along. Some people even got a bit upset, is what we'll say. So I'm doing this on the longer way. So from this top multiply, we want to get an add. We're going to add the second one with it. From the second to the bottom, we're going to get a subtract. And subtract from the bottom multiply. And then we will pull out and do an append vector. So that we have this set up. Here we go. The next thing we're going to do is drag way out here and type divide. And then we want this to be an absolute, so ABS. And then multiply by 100. And the reason we're doing that is it's absolute world position. So at this point, 1 is 1, meaning once we put a 1, it's 1 centimeter instead of 1 meter. So that's what we want. Now from here on the top, we want UV scale. Just as a brief reminder, UV scale we did up here. Beautiful. Now I'm going to straighten this up a bit. And this is our scale parameter. This is where everything goes into scale. Now we're going to drag out, do an add. Then from here, pivot point. We want the reroute node that we created for the pivot point. All right. Then from here, we want another add. Pull on down and do an append. Not append many, sorry. We want an append vector, so I'm just going to copy and paste this one. And we want UV offset X. And then UV offset Y. And from there, put that in here. Now it looks very different than what it did look like. So this stuff right here is the offset. This whole thing right here is rotation. And then this is the pivot point. So that is 1/3 of what we need to do. The rest of them are a little different, but not terribly. So what we're going to do now is hit copy and paste twice. So as you can see here, this is now cosine 1, G1, G1, and that's fine. But here's where the changes are going to be, because there are massive differences. Well, not massive. They're tiny differences that make a massive difference. So, for the RB, we want to change these two nodes, G and B. They are now, this G needs to be R, and this stays B. So for naming sake, I will change this to R, which then changes that to R1 and this to R1. So it changes the reroutes for us. Everything stays as B. That one is done. Now for this one, we need this to be R, this mask, and then this bottom mask to be G. So then we come up here to the reroutes, make that an R, make that a G. Now everything is cleaned up. Drag this into here. Now, as you can imagine, based off of how it looks right now, it was very much stringy before all of this. Having all the spaghetti strings just everywhere, everything overlapping, it was frustrating and it was annoying. So now we hit save. It is done. It is ready. Right now, you can see that we are viewing this one. We right click and do, where is it? Start preview node. This one looks like this. Start preview node, and this one looks like this. They're all different and important for triplanar. But we also need it for what we're about to do here in the material layer base. Oh, one thing I forgot to do. Let's open this back up, click on the graph, expose to library. It needs to be the same name as the rest of the functions for the materials. Hit save. Now when we right click, come down here to material functions. Here's our transform UVs. Fantastic. All right. So what we're going to want to do here is out of the RG, wow, I'm going to rearrange these now, otherwise that's going to bother me. We want GB to be 0, RB to be 1, and RG to be 2. It's important for when we get to triplanar, so might as well make sure it's ready now. There we go. So RG, we're going to do a reroute node and call it UVs. And then from UV scale input, UV size. Now we need to copy and paste this. It's going to be UVs 2. And this is going to be called noise UV size. Now I'm going to hold down 1. We're going to make this 1. And then I'm going to hold down 1 again. And we're going to make this one 3.7452. Why? Because it's a strange number, not exactly the same. So the scaling will be different. Now we're going to come over here. We want UVs. This one is UVs 2. And now we're going to copy, paste, paste. Come over here and watch. Hit save. Ah, silly me. These need to be check marked. That's what happens when you don't make sure everything is set. And there we go. Now, as you can see, this one's bigger while the other's smaller. We're going to come in here and you'll see that things are disorganized again. So what we want to do instead is after this final one, after this right here, 2, I believe this is, no, that's 4. So this is 3. All right. So we want this to be 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. We're gonna hit save. That way, now things are in an orderly fashion. So I want this same object here, so I'm just gonna copy it, paste, right click, convert to parameter, and we'll do biome 01 albedo noise. Plug that in right here. Then we're going to hold down the 1. Sorry, not the 1. The S. And this is going to be biome 01 UVs. Place this at a 1. Right there. Copy paste. This one will be noise UVs 3.752, just a random number. Just remember that. We'll be changing it shortly. And then we are going to hold down the S again. Biome 01 albedo noise contrast. Hold down the 1 again, not the 1. It's become habit. Hold down the S. Biome 01 albedo noise brightness. Place that out of 1. And we're just gonna copy and paste. We're gonna name this one darkness. Perfect. Hit save. And as you can see, the darks got a little different, and I'm going to show you what I'm talking about here. These aren't in any order right now, as you can tell, and we'll fix that in a little bit. If we come in here to this and I change this to 10, look at that. It's even harder to see the tiling. Obviously there is still tiling, bigger tiling, which we will fix in a different episode, but now we have tiling started. If we come here to the contrast for the noise, put it 0, 0.5, 1. And the darkness, if we want it to be darker, it's too dark. So 1.5, like that, 1.1. See, now it's starting to get too dark. But if we come up here to brightness, it's making the whites whiter. So you need to remember that the darkness makes the darks darker, and the brightness makes the whites whiter. So 0.5, 0.7, 0.8, 0.9. That's how we'll keep it for now. Obviously, you can continue to make adjustments, change the albedo noise as you see fit. But this is literally just one of the 3 ways that I help break up tiling. It's the way I prefer to do it because it also works beautifully with runtime virtual texturing, which again we will get to in a future episode. So thank you guys for watching on the UVs, and we will get on to making more nodes to make this pop more, make it look more like the images that we downloaded. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.